Yeah, I mean, I think market having, market. I think the evidence suggests that market economies are, they're very good at creating wealth, but I think what everybody forgets is, and what every economist, most economists don't understand or don't want to understand because it makes life too complicated, is that markets are embedded in society, in societies with different cultures and institutions and social norms. And this was the fallacy, of a lot of the advice that was given to Eastern Europe in the 1990s. You just have the market economy, you have democracy, and everything's fine. But that's a misinterpretation of what made the West economically successful. You have to build the institutions that support these things, and you can't do that overnight just by privatizing everything. As the Russian experience so dramatically shows, you need to have structure institutions that's compatible with that, and that has to be built. That can't be created overnight. And people's opinions and social norms and expectations have to change and work with that. And that's a complicated job of changing the society. And no, it's happened. It happened to Japan. You go back to Japan in the 1860s. Japan was a very poor country without an effective centralized state. People paid taxes in kind, craft industry. It was cut off from the world. Japan closed itself from the world for 200 years. There was no international trade except on one little island. South Korea is also an example of a society which has caught up dramatically with the West. I think that Brazil and Mexico also are on a transition path to catching up with the West. That you've seen dramatic transitions in some parts of the world in the last 20, 30 years, and I don't see. I think the Spanish experience shows how difficult these things are. No one understood the problems of the endemic problems of corruption and patrimonialism that was going on within the Spanish state, and it took a crisis to sort of make that evident. And I think people sort of understood that's how things worked in Greece, but they didn't really think that that's how things worked in Spain. One of the things we do in the book, is to try to show that all of the countries in the world, including England and United States or even Australia, that are successful today, historically went through a process of building these institutions. They didn't just plop down rich. They were poor and extractive, and they built inclusive institutions. That's difficult, but some places manage to do it. Well, I think there's a lot of variation, but I think in every experience, including the English experience, by the way, the state plays a very active role in promoting industrialization. I mean, it did in the United States. The state in the US, the state played a huge role in subsidizing infrastructure, railway building, roads, canals. It taxed. It taxed industrial imports to encourage domestic manufacturing. England did exactly the same thing. What was the Industrial Revolution? The Industrial Revolution in England was massively driven by innovation and organisational change in the textile industry. The textile production in England was incredibly protected from foreign competition by these things called the Calico Acts. So I think there's a lot of variation. In England, they didn't subsidise, in the way they did in the United States or other places. In Korea, they provided all sorts of incentives for manufacturing firms to export. They provided subsidized credit, So I think the state has a huge role. Of course, there's a market economy, but the market economy is full of imperfections. And the state has a very crucial role in terms of providing basic public goods and trying to overcome these market failures. So I don't have any problem with that. I think the problem is getting the state to play that constructive role. For every example of a country where you see the state playing that constructive role, I can name you others where the state didn't play that role. It created monopolies, it gave favors to its friends, it created rents, it created barriers, it created, it created a clientelistic situation. This type of policy that I'm talking about that was very successful in Taiwan or South Korea, or that's been very unsuccessful in many other places. So I would say, what's the difference between those cases? Well, that's about getting the political institutions working. It's about having a state where rules and not deals are important. That's the thing you see in South Korea. They provided subsidized credit and they provided incentives to export, but that was the same for everybody. It was not some clientelistic deal to Samsung to get support. It was the same for everybody. And if you didn't achieve the targets, you didn't get the subsidies and it was taken away. But there were clear rules, and that's the problem in many states in poor countries. They can't do that.